Thank you. Wonderful. So I'd like to say a warm welcome to everyone here and those who are listening and watching via the Facebook stream on Kashulia UK's Facebook page. So firstly, a warm welcome to our speakers this evening. And from my screen, I will do it from my screen in the order I can see it. We have Renee Cooper. Hello, joining us from the US. And where exactly, Renee?
I am in not so sunny South Florida.
Okay.
Don't be jealous. It's raining here every day.
All right. And we have Ebony Omalara joining us from London. Say hi, Ebony.
Hi, everyone. I'm in East London. Just normal.
We have Richman Mahlangu joining us from Vegas.
Vegas. Back in my country, my name in South Africa is pronounced Mahlangu, but we'll forgive you.
So say it again, please, Richman.
It's Mahlangu, but don't worry. In America, they say exactly what you just said, and it's okay. You're forgiven. I'll go by Mahlangu here. But
I've literally taken the order of the letters and made up my pronunciation.
I'm in Vegas at this time. Thank you.
And we have Raul joining us from Washington, DC.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, it's lovely to have you here. And I know that we're in for a treat. We are going to be inspired by your stories and also your expertise in what you do. So let's get this party started. So for those who are not familiar with Kashulia UK. Oh, no, sorry. Let me introduce myself first. I'm Carol Edmondson, and I'm a volunteer host with Kashulia UK, a not-for-profit community organisation. I've been volunteering with the organisation joyfully and gleefully since 2020. And it's an absolute privilege to work with the founder of Kashulia UK, Ritu Sharma, who is a best-selling author, women empowerment ambassador. She has so many bows under her string. It's unreal. An actor. What else have I forgotten? She's just someone you need to get to know, because the heart behind everything that she creates for Kashulia UK is just amazing. We think of one of the projects is support for domestic violence or domestic abuse victims, and that's a biggie where Kashulia UK is concerned. And also for personal and professional development, empowering communities, health and well-being. And aside from these online events, we also have an in-person, we have 3 in-person events. Four now. One of them is falling under the umbrella of health and well-being. We have a fortnightly dance and wellness class. We have a Let's Talk Happiness class. Now that fits me down to a T. And we also have an arts class, and I mentioned DV. We have volunteers who come together twice a month to create items to sell to raise money for DV victims. So I'm sure you'll see that we have our hands full. And they're all the brainchild of Ritu, and we rely on volunteers in actually moving forward with the various projects that is being run and inspired by Kashulia UK. So Ritu is the CEO and founder of Kashulia UK, and I'll just say Kashulia means skilled and empowered woman, and it's the name of her grandmother, maternal grandmother. So there's a lot of
paternal grandmother, my lovely.
Paternal. Okay. So there's a lot behind what goes on with Kashulia UK. Did you want to say a few words now, Ritu?
Thank you so much, Carol. I just want to say a very warm welcome to everyone. Thank you for joining us And Carol, you're doing a fab job. Please carry on. Thank you.
Oh, I was just about to spotlight you. Okay, so a bit of housekeeping. If the fire bell goes, follow me. Sorry, I couldn't resist that. Um, no, bit of housekeeping, seriously. I'll ask everyone to put their mics on mute unless you are speaking. And once all 4 speakers have spoken, I will then open up the floor for Q&A, where you have the opportunity to ask questions of the speakers, speaker to speaker, audience to speaker, because tonight is going to be phenomenal. And with that said, I'd like to introduce you to our first speaker of the evening or morning, wherever you are joining in from, who is Ebony Omolara. And I hope I've pronounced your surname correctly. Hey, awesome. So who is Ebony? Well, Ebony is a young woman of powerful nature as a creative, healer, and artist. She founded Ebony Omolara Enterprises, which is modeled as a personal brand, but provides products and services that provoke social impact within the holistic health and well-being, creative, and influencer industries. I may need some tips, Ebony. She sets out to make her mark her way. Make her mark her way by using her experience and her gifts as a positive light for others to see what can be achieved with self-belief. Ebony, no more to be said from me. Take it away.
Thank you. So I'm gonna share my screen with you guys, if that's okay. Okay. Can everyone see that?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So my name is Ebony Omolara, and I'm the founder of Ebony Omolara Enterprises, a digital marketing agency where I'm making my mark my own. So before I get into introducing my company, I want to tell you what Ebony Omolara actually means. So as much as it being my name, Ebony represents Black beauty. It's actually named after a very deep, dark wood called ebony. And then Omolara, it's a Yoruba name because I'm half Nigerian and half from Sierra Leone. But I've been given 2 meanings for it. And one of them was a child born at the right time. And that kind of lived out to be true in my existence because everything that happened to me seemed to be aligned in some form of synchronistic timing. And the other one was this child is a sibling. And that also rendered true to me because the way in which I'm able to empathize with anybody, it's like I have this thing that makes me feel like everyone is my brother and sister. And so that kind of set the precedent of who I am in the first place, even before I became an entrepreneur. And I've been kind of able to encompass who I am into a digital marketing agency that specializes in translating the positive impact, healing, and upliftment that Black-owned businesses provide for their communities. I've started off with the Black community because I feel like growing up in my experience, I realized how significantly less there's a smaller percentage of us that have emotional intelligence and know how to be healthy physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, and financially. And so that's kind of where I've directed my work. A little bit about me. I'm Ebony Omolara, or EO for short. That's actually my name and my middle name. And it's my stage name, but I'll get into that later. I'm 25 and I'm 5'3", almost 5'4", and I like to smile a lot. I was born in Hackney, East London, to teen parents in 1999. And like I said, I'm from Sierra Leone in Nigeria. I dropped out of college because I was working a lot, but I got an unconditional offer for university because I had really good GCSEs. But by the time I went to university, I studied economics for a year, but I did the same thing and I made the same mistake of working so much that I didn't keep up with my studies. And I failed my first year, but I was given the opportunity to study a different course. And I went for quantity surveying and commercial management because I wanted to get into construction and property. While I was doing that course, I actually didn't attend uni much, but I graduated with a 2-1. And with the rest of my time, I started Cultured Waste, so a waste feed company selling beaded jewelry. And I got that from my heritage because my great grandma, she was a indigenous woman, very true to our Yoruba culture. And she showed me something about waste beads and they caught my attention and I didn't know why at first. And over the years, it's become a way in which I spend time with myself, a way in which I spend time healing myself and actually create a safe space for me to be vulnerable and to figure out how I'm feeling and what my emotions actually are and be able to communicate them. So that was kind of the journey that I went on within myself, growing in confidence and understanding what it means. And then I started to reflect that in my work. So my company first started out as Cultured Waste. And like I said, I was selling waste beads online. So I came up with the idea when I was in college, but I didn't have the self-belief. When I failed my first year of uni and I came back to London, I was trying to get a job and I couldn't get one. So I was like, okay, I have the beads and I've had the idea for years, so why not start now? And I just made a post and I said, I'm selling waist beads, and girls started to order. And then I started to make content about why I wanted to make waist beads and speaking about loving your body and how it looks and how it feels. No, I wasn't actually speaking about how it feels because I didn't understand that back then. But now I do. And it's been a journey ever since, kind of delving into what is confidence and how do I be confident in myself and how do I define that. And so from making waist beads for women, I was then asked to do a workshop to help to, I think what they asked me to do was just to run a workshop and show women how to make waist beads. But then I heard that and I was like, this sounds like a good opportunity to like create a safe space for us to do what I do by myself together. And so we had the first workshop I ever did, we had this really open discussion about how we feel about ourselves. And there was also, it was quite an older group of women. And we started having discussions about how they felt about their own bodies was being reflected in how they treat their daughters and how they should feel about their bodies. And it was really powerful. And there was even a mother who said that she's going to go home and she's going to apologize to her daughter because she now understands the kind of pressure that she might have put her under because of the pressure that she felt to look a certain way or to show up according to certain beauty standards. As well as doing the workshop, I then wrote my first book, Women and Waist Beads, how to heal the relationship, between yourself and your body, which her second edition is going to be coming out soon within the next few weeks. Whilst I was at university doing QS and running Cultured Waste, I was also volunteering in Coventry, and I volunteered with two organizations, and then I worked with one, but it was all within the community space and within the youth workspace. And with that, I was able to work on 3 major projects, one of which I produced and directed a short film. Another one I hosted an outdoor sports and music event in collaboration with Commonwealth Games and Birmingham 2022. We won a National Crime Beat Award. And there was just a lot of things that I was able to do. It was hosting regular youth nights at the same time and running other projects. It was a very busy time. That was while I was in my 3rd year of uni, and it did get a little bit hectic. But straight after that, it got to my graduation, and I'm now going to talk about why I started doing the work that I do. So I have put 2 pictures of myself here. In the first picture, I'm about 6 or 7 years old and I'm in primary school. And in the second picture, I'm 23 years old and I'm graduating. In the first picture, by that age, I'd already gone through some pretty harsh things, including physical, mental, emotional, and sexual abuse. And then in that picture on my graduation, even though it was such a happy day for me, the space where I was in my life was very much feeling almost under attack because of things that I'd experienced or not knowing who to speak to about it or how to speak about it. And as I was trying to grow in confidence, as I'd started learning about confidence and reading books about it and just learning about a lot of things, actually, I started to really notice how the things that had happened to me were playing out in my behavior or in my attitude or in my thought pattern and things like that. And that was not just from me being around myself, but that was also from me interacting with other people. For example, I had a counselling session at university where he spoke to me about being compassionate about myself. And then that's when I had to kind of notice that I'm not that compassionate with myself, and why is that, and where does that come from, and how can I start to be? Going on this journey, I was able to shift my perspective of shame, guilt, regret, and build a healthier relationship with myself so that I'm able to make mistakes, but also to learn from them, and then replicate that into what I do. So I'm going to talk about that next. The main thing that I actually do is content creation and digital marketing. So I create content to uplift, educate, and empower individuals, which encourages them to prioritize being their authentic self, growing healthily. And I do that by setting the example as much as I can. Of course, I'm not perfect, but I share very vulnerably. And I feel like that is what has kept me on this journey, but also attracted people to me, because if I'm messing up, I'm going to tell you I'm messing up, but I'm going to tell you where I'm also trying to find solutions and take baby steps towards growth. We market projects, events, products, and services for our clients who want to creatively connect their message with their audience, specifically when it comes to approaching sensitive and triggering pain points that you offer a solution for. As well as making content for our clients, the focus is also on our online communities, and we provide them with content that brings value as well as entertainment. As a person, I'm just very bubbly. There's so many different aspects to me, which you guys will find out in just a second. And so we have 9 social media platforms, which all fall under 3 brands, which create Ebony Omalora Enterprises, and it's all rooted in creativity, collaboration, and community. The first brand is Cultured Waste. So obviously I've spoken a lot about my healing journey, and this is what Cultured Waste is. And so the Pretty Face Cultured Waste community is my online community of women who wear waist beads or just tune into the conversations and content that I post. And I've focused it on wearing waist beads for the purpose of intentionally healing emotional wounds and understanding how you feel about yourself after you've experienced something, and how to start feeling better about yourself if you are in a low space. The Talk is a show, an Instagram live show that I started, where I just speak to different people who have expertise in different areas about things I wish I knew growing into womanhood. And it really allowed me to ask questions and to be curious. And I realized not everyone is comfortable to do that. Some people are a bit ashamed of the questions that they have. And so I kind of do that. And I ask people if they have any questions that they want me to ask, they can send them through. And then I'll find a source that can actually give us the information about it. And then Stay Rising is a confidence boosting project that consists of energy and tarot readings, as well as confidence coaching to help you set goals for your physical, mental, spiritual, emotional, and financial health, and to identify any negative or limiting beliefs that may be holding you back because of things that you've been through or experienced, or things that you just might believe is the truth. The second brand is Unapologetically Ebony. And this is where I host all of my creative industry work and events. So the first project is just me being a creative. I'm a recording artist, a songwriter, scriptwriter, director, producer, and general theatrical performer, because I act and I do like contemporary dance and different types of dance. But yes, all of that stuff kind of goes into that. And then Embrace is my networking event, but it's also a showcase, and it's a space for different elements of creativity to come together and meet each other, especially for those who are independent. There's arts that I feel like can sometimes get overlooked, especially as a musician. I try and speak to other musicians and let them know you need to be meeting artists, you need to be meeting like stylists, you need to be meeting people who edit, you need, like, there's all the pieces that make a pie. And so creating a space where people can come together and say what they do or what they're trying to do and meet the people who they can create opportunities with is what the purpose of that event is. And then Young Souls Creative Leadership is the educational strand off of that. So I've just come off of a 8-week course where I was learning skills about the music industry, and it's about signposting services and courses and stuff like that so that people can have access to them, specifically young people. But young people kind of goes up to like 30 because, yeah, just because. My third brand is Not Impersonal, and this is how I would describe my marketing approach, just the name that I gave it like years ago, because it's all just me being myself. Like exactly how I am in real life is exactly how I'll be on the camera. I had to learn to set boundaries and stuff at first because I was just like, but I'm just being myself. And then it's like, no, there's privacy in this. But anyway, the first kind of project under that is just me, the personal brand aspect of me being an entrepreneur, my journey and what it's been like. I went full-time on my business in January 2023. And I always say to myself, I feel like if I knew what I was going to go through before I made that choice, I don't think I would have made the choice. But because I made the choice, I'm really grateful that I have. And it's been beautiful. It's been very building and uplifting and testing and trying, but it's built me and it's built my faith. And I feel like that experience is what some people don't really think of straight away when they think of success. They might think of the material wealth or the, I don't know, the popularity and always being called here and there, but you kind of forget that rush and that thrill of achievement. And so I want to spark that and ignite that in other people. The second project is where I do my public speaking, for example, this. But also I'm giving a lot of talks about culture, gang violence, police brutality, confidence, diversity, and youth empowerment. When I speak, I find that my mind works a little bit differently to everybody. So when I speak, I try to open people's minds as much as possible, but also have my own mind open. And I realized that I used to be really silent or not speak at all, and nothing will get resolved, or all the questions and all the things that I had about life. It's like you can never run out of them. So you should explore and you should ask and you should seek for the answer on those things. And then the last thing is, again, obviously we offer digital marketing services anyway, but we also create content about being a content creator for other people who are doing digital marketing. We share ideas about digital marketing, and we've started doing challenges where we set like a content creation challenge and just reach out to our network to get involved. The vision for ERE, so my personal goal for myself is to stay creative and to stay in emotional balance, because healing is a journey, and I've accepted that it's my responsibility not to be a hurt person who hurts people. And then my mission for the business is to help others to be creative and to get into emotional balance by showing them how to be safely vulnerable. I feel like it will help with things. I put bullying down as one of the things because I was trying to explain it to someone as healing for someone who has been bullied looks like setting boundaries of, okay, I don't like that treatment and I'm not going to accept it any longer. And what this person is saying about me is not necessarily true. And they're coming from a lower place. And then the healing for the bully is kind of like, they're going to need a very safe space to speak vulnerably because they're already in that frame of, I'm going to deflect and be negative towards someone else. And only they will know why. And it's only up to them to open up about it, but it's how they can do that for themselves. Not everyone has the knowledge about it. I aim to create space for emotions, ideas, and questions for everyone from all walks of life by starting with myself first and then the community. But I started with the Black community first because I personally experienced the effects of trauma and shame within my own life, as well as witnessing how it affected other people's lives. And the restoration of like the healthy relationships within the community is very important to me. This slide is just something to think about when it comes to my approach to digital marketing. So I spoke about representation and the conversation about having more Black faces on screen. And we've seen so many improvements over the years. And I'm not saying that this is a problem. This is just a complete separate aspect to, I gave the example of a Dove advert. So Dove can do an advert and it can have women from all backgrounds, all shapes, all sizes, and all of that stuff. But then there's like a whole market of people who don't use Dove cream because they use shea butter. And that's something that's like very popular to me because I'm African and we just use shea butter a lot. So, but you wouldn't necessarily see a shea butter advert on television. And so what social media gave us the ability to do is then create our own like marketing systems and advertising networks so that we're actually reaching the people who want our products and our services and the things that we are offering. That is everything that I had to say today. I know that it's kind of a lot because I'm like, how do I, all of who I am, how do I say that to you in 20 minutes? It's a little bit hard, but that's me and what I do. So if anyone has any questions, feel free to ask.
We'll do questions at the end. But
Okay.
Ebony, we need to talk further. I wished you lived nearer this side. Would love to involve you in our Kashulia UK as an ambassador. Yeah. But yes, we'll talk more offline.
Yes.
Excellent. I didn't realize you sung as well.
Yeah.
Oh my word. Yes, we need to talk. Definitely. All righty. So thank you, Ebony. And I'll say thank you for your vulnerability in sharing, your early beginnings and the trauma that you experienced. So thank you. Now, if I can get my iPad to come back on. So on to our next speaker this afternoon or morning, depending where you're joining us from, is the wonderful Renee Hope Cooper. Renee is a communications expert and has been a speaker for 15 plus years, raising millions of dollars in corporate funding. Along her journey, many executives and leaders on all levels would ask her how she enjoys speaking so much and how they could consistently appear more authentic. So let me just spotlight. Oh, I don't know how to do it on here. Okay, let's carry on. So, sorry, Renee, to continue.
Okay.
Renee turned her lifelong love for speaking and educating to mentoring, coaching and training individuals, teams and organizations to improve their sales and leadership skills by discovering, developing and amplifying their voice, the most important instrument we were given. Yes. Renee uses a unique and customized interactive approach to help her audiences create authentic and engaging connections with their audiences, big or small, by using science-backed techniques, including improvisation, coupled with specific voice techniques and her own story, overcoming adversity in the workplace. Renee is passionate about improving communications in the workplace by getting her clients and audiences to walk through the discomfort of speaking or working through conflict by doing a deep dive in communications training so they can reach the next level in their success journey, personally or professionally. So, Renee, over to you.
Thank you so much for that beautiful, beautiful introduction. Good morning, good afternoon, good day, as I should say if I was British, right? Should I say that? Or is that not the thing to say? Good day. I'm really honored and privileged to be here today. I really want you to start thinking about, as I share, the word alignment and how that shows up for you. And I'm going to tell you right now, I'm not a physical therapist or a chiropractor. I don't mean that type of alignment, okay? You know, I find that in life for all of us, and part of what I want to share with you is that our struggle truly is our strength. Wouldn't you agree? Like a show of hands, our struggle at the end of the day, right? That's where we get our strength from. And it took me 20 years, for all of you listening, 20 years for me to become into alignment with who I am. And I share that for so many reasons, because we know, each of us know people who haven't even dipped their toe into the things that light them up, or the things that give them purpose or give them passion because of that 4-letter word. We all know what it is, right? What's that word? We haven't stepped into that word because of fear. We haven't stepped in, right? So I want to share, I'm going to bring you down a journey of what it looked like for me. And if this resonates for you, drop a line in the chat about what your experience has been. And I certainly do hope that, because this is truly about alignment, that something shifts for you or for one of you who are listening. So I was basically a communications junkie ever since I was a young person. I was that person. Now tell me if you know people like that. I was that annoying person who didn't stop talking in school. I did not stop asking questions. It got to the point where people would know that I was the chosen one to ask the questions for the people that were too embarrassed to ask. Anyone know of anyone like that? People would tap me on the shoulder. Renee, can you ask this question? Oh, if I only got paid for all of the questions that people would ask me. But I digress. I didn't know that that was my superpower, because in the confines of the educational world and the career world, I was then later told, you ask too many questions. You don't need all of that information. Stay in your lane. Focus on your task. I kept stepping into positions that I was not aligned for, because the one thing that I wanted more than anything was to be the next Oprah Winfrey. Yes, I said it. I said it. This little Jewish girl, 5'2" with heels from Brooklyn, New York, with a big nose and big hair, don't care, wanted to be Oprah Winfrey. And let me tell you something. Everyone in my circle, people in my family, people that I knew, gave me every reason to believe why that just couldn't be possible. You're going to need to lose weight. You need to get a nose job. You're going to need to have a lot of money. Every single reason that could get thrown at me did. And guess what? I believed it. How many of you in your life have been told so many things as it relates to your being, who you are? Have you been told you're shy, you're reserved, you're too quiet, you're too outgoing, you're too not out, you're too introverted, you're too quiet, you're too, like we're bombarded with messages our whole lives, right? It's no accident, no reason why it takes for us to start stepping into our truth about what feels right for our souls. And as we say in Hebrew, our neshama, okay, our souls, what feels right. So after years and years and years of being in the wrong jobs, totally wrong jobs, I had something smack me in the face bigger than anything. Because you see, this is how dreams work, right, ladies and gents? Dreams will always tug at our hearts. They will always tug at us, and they're not going to go away. But some of us are not fortunate to wake up, and some of us are. I had the gift of waking up for 20 years because I had to fulfill my purpose. And what did that look like? It took a very, very toxic job. Anybody out there have one of those? Drop a line in the chat if you've ever had one of those where you couldn't be more miserable, more mentally sick, physically sick, stressed out, anxious, nervous to get you to move. It was like as if the universe said, Renee, this is it. You better move. So I was separated from a very toxic job. And in being separated from that job, it's like as if I had this like call with the universe through Mel Robbins. Mel Robbins became a very big inspiration to me before the pandemic. I took her course on how to do a reset. And here I was turning 50, half a century old, doing a reset with Mel Robbins because the universe was speaking to her, through her, for me. And that's when, ladies and gentlemen, I decided to tip my toe in. It was very, very, very brief though. I dipped my toe here, I dipped my toe there. I'd get a call from this one or that organization or that school. Can you speak? Sure. Can you help us? Sure. But my belief, just like Ebony said, the self-trust in knowing that I had this gift. I didn't know I had this gift. How did I know I had this gift? This was a turning point in my career. I ended up getting into a job that was my right fit. And you know that feeling where it's like, it like takes over your whole body. It's like, yeah, this feels good. And we have that in our relationships, in our friendships, in our day-to-day activities, things that light us up or what have you. So I finally stepped into the right job. And that was after 10 years of being in the wrong jobs. What did I do? I stepped into the world of fundraising. I stepped into the world of having to speak. I had to do 3 or 4 presentations each and every day. That lit me up. I got to be exposed to different audiences. I had big corporate accounts in the pharmaceuticals industry, in the advertising industry, in the cosmetics industry. I spoke to garbage men. I spoke to postal people. And so what happened there was very unique. I got to be able to learn how to become a storyteller. How many of you could benefit from learning how to tell your story, whatever it is, for that next job, for that next interview, for that next pitch? There he goes. He's talking to me, my dog, for that next opportunity that you wish to share yourself and your story. Should I turn the mic over to him? That's Jackson. Everyone say hello. Hi, Jackson. He's my 4-year-old poodle. Anyway, I digress. So here I am giving this incredible speech. And I don't say that to boast, but it was because of the years and years of experience that I had to learn, what does this audience need to hear? So I was speaking to a group of leadership executives at a huge pharmaceutical company. I'll leave it nameless. There was 150 people in the room. Most of the people did not look like me, if you know what I mean. Most of the people were earning 10 times my salary, if you know what I mean. Most of the people were not anything like me. I think I maybe saw 3 women in that room. I took my nerves, I took my skill set for telling a story. What do executives need to hear? They don't need to hear the same pitch that I'm going to give to a bunch of teachers or educators. They need to hear something different. They need to hear the research. They need to hear the numbers behind why am I asking them to dig into their pockets. They need to hear how is this affecting their employee base? How is this affecting the people that they're interacting with each and every day that are right outside those big pharmaceutical doors? So the reason I share this with you is because I had them. I had them in the palm of my hand. And that's such a good feeling, because then you feel like you've truly connected with the people that you're imparting knowledge to. Does that make sense? Like you're feeling like you have them with you, not that you're talking at them, but they're with you. Does that make sense to you? So at the end of this presentation, you're never going to believe this. This man comes up to me in this beautiful pinstripe suit, 6'2". Of course, everyone's taller than me. He shakes my hand and he says the following: "That was amazing speech for someone of your size." Yep, your mouths can drop. Go ahead. I want to see them. Drop your mouth. That's exactly what happened. And here's what happened in that moment for all of you that are watching. I developed what they call now as imposter syndrome. Who am I to be fantastic? Who am I to be of influence? Someone who's 20 years younger than these people, imparting information to get them to dig into their pocket. He had to tell me I was great, but he also had to tell me, who are you to be this great, right? Just like Marianne Williamson says, our greatest fear is not what we fear, it's stepping into our light, right? It's stepping into our true essence, our true power. And that took me down the road once again of not being aligned, because who am I to be able to share my gift when I have this person who emulates the corporate space telling me, look at you, right? So once again, beaten down on me, not believing in myself. And as I continued the journey of learning how to become a master storyteller and inviting people into my world through the messages that I was giving them, people would start to ask me, "Renee, I have to speak all day and I hate it." Anyone agree out there watching? I hate it. I don't like it. I just get my speeches done and over with. Anyone agree with that? That's what was happening. People were coming up to me. How do you do it? How do you seem to enjoy it? Because let's face it, I'm sure all of you on Zoom right now have watched people that had all the accolades, all the skills, and they were dumping information, yet there was something that wasn't right. Something was off. Something didn't feel right about that messenger. Maybe they just were too proud of their accomplishments, and they weren't like getting to be with you. Because at the end of the day, audiences don't want to be spoken to. They want to be spoken with. They want to have conversations with the people that they're learning from, right? Because that makes you feel connected. So even then, I didn't know how to do this. I didn't know how to do this. And I just kept tripping over myself until, like I had shared, when I was in that toxic job, and I said, this is it. I'm done. This was, I want to trace you back to July of 2023. I took my daughter out of state to college. I think I was sharing with our next speaker in Washington, near Washington. And I said, this is it, universe. I'm going for it. Just like Ebony said, I'm going for it. I'm doing it. I did everything within like 48 hours and poof, magic. Because I was finally in the space of what we call, and I don't know for those of you that believe in energy and that we all transmit energy and our vibe, right? I was allowing for that to come. And then before you know it, I'm coaching over 12.5 people from all different industries and all different titles, and for different reasons. Some of them were writers and they needed to translate their ability to write to be able to speak with emotion. So I work with one of our local mayors. I work with engineers. I've worked with doctors. What do doctors do, right? They're all focused on the research and the quantitative data, but are they feeling what they're saying? Are they sharing an experience with you that makes you feel heard, right? So I take my clients down a journey of understanding, well, why is your voice the way it is? Who told you what about you and your ability to self-express or not self-express? That's defining the way you carry yourself through your message, because your brand and your message is everything, right? So I walk my clients down a journey of discovering what is your why, but we have to examine what helped you develop the voice you have today, and where are you limiting it? Where are you holding back in your life? Where are you not speaking up and asserting yourself in situations? You know, it could be, I have young people in my portfolio because I'll always have a heart for kids. This child was scared to ask for new French fries at the mall with her friends because they were cold. Now she has no problem going up and saying, my French fries are cold. It's things like that. You know, people put this mystic effect on public speaking. It's more than that. It's being able to really, truly speak up for yourself, speak up for what's right, speak up for someone, speak up for your idea, speak up for your business, speak up for what you're passionate about, in the face of adversity, in the face of standing in your truth when others don't want you to. Does this make sense? Is this benefiting anybody? Yeah. Simon says, raise your right hand if this is benefiting anyone out there. That's great. I love that. And so, my goodness, to be able to walk through this journey for 20 years, to not take action, and now finally being in alignment with my truth. It's very, very interesting to see how people shift when it comes to trauma, right? Like Ebony said, people have to release certain things that have happened to them so that they can step into a new possibility, so that they can elevate their voice for that next job, for their business, for the ability to quit their job to start their business, for the ability to finally stand up with power when they only have 2 minutes to describe what they do. How do we turn that message into something that's connected? Not just, like I keep saying, and I'll keep saying it over and over, not just a presentation, not just bullet points, get it out, over and done, but to be able to feel the emotion of what it is you're trying to say first, starting there, and then crafting what is it that you want your message ultimately to be at the end of the day. If you forget all the details from A to M and you only remember N, O, P, and Q, at the end of the day, what do you want that audience, small or large, to take away from you? Because once you know what you want them to take away, that's your non-negotiable. Once you have that, then you can learn through the journey of speaking with power, of how do I translate my message with emotion by using language and the ability to enunciate certain things to stand out. And then how do I achieve mastery with my presence and my ability to truly see the people I'm with? So I'm not up here and you're there. We're together. We're having a conversation. I'm not speaking at you, right? And then we go down the road of mastery when it comes to the power of the pause. Power of the pause. The ability to say something and then stop talking, because our brains are working at such fast speeds that most of us are speaking at the same rate that we're thinking. So how do we turn that around? So this journey has been incredible for me. And I love knowing that this is my life's work. This is my life's passion, to be able to help people on all different levels. I'm currently working with a young man, and I live in Florida, so there's a lot of athletes here. He's a retired pro football player. He retired at 32. This was his dream. He got his dream, but guess what? He had a wrist injury. His dream is gone. His dream is gone. So yeah, he was set financially and is set financially. But when he found me, he said, I don't know much. I didn't learn how. I learned leadership through sports, right? I learned physicality of how to be the best through my training, but I didn't learn anything about who am I? What's next for me? What am I if I'm not a football player? Right? Which is why it's so critical to explore these areas of oneself, to be able to look at our own self-expression. He wants to be a life coach. So I'm helping him down this journey now of exploring what is his why? What is his message? How do we have a bunch of stories that you could choose from for any audience that you're going to be speaking with? So it's been a joy to share this all with you. I know you said you're going to ask for questions later, right, Carol? But if I can leave you with something, and I think it's probably the most important thing, our job as speakers, and you are a speaker. If you're sharing a message, you are that speaker. And I don't care if you're in an interview or if you're in the elevator, you own that room. You own the room. Take a moment, take a breath into gaining composure for yourself before you even say a word, because you own that room. Let your audience know when you're ready to speak. And when you do, take a moment and connect with people. If you go onto Google, it'll say, make sure you have eye contact. Yeah, that's great. But I'm talking about something elevated, something different. Really connect with people. Because if we were to stand before each other and not say a word, we could totally communicate with each other just through our eyes and our bodies. And if I could leave you with 2 tips, that would be my takeaway for right now. So what I'd love to do is, if I could drop a link for those of you that wish to get some free tips to help you become better right now that you're not going to find on Google, as well as my link if you'd like to just chat with me, to just share what's going on for you in your world and where you wish to go. Thank you so much. My timer just rang, so thank you.
Awesome, 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 awesome. Yes, please leave your links in the chat, definitely. And I'd just like to take a short break to say a warm welcome to the fabulous Teresa K. Page, who was a speaker on this platform in June 2022, and love is behind her business. Yes. So thank you, Teresa, for joining us this evening, and also Eni Osal, King of LinkedIn Audio Rooms. Eni, thank you so much for joining us. I know you have an incredibly busy schedule, so I really appreciate you stepping in, and you're always a big supporter of Kushulia UK stories from both sides. You always promote it whenever I'm in your audio room, so thank you. So Busi, welcome. Jasbir, welcome. Now, is that Leo Mahlangu, relative Richman? You can unmute.
Okay, no, I said you good.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
Awesome. And guess what? You're up next. So,
Okay.
Introducing the one and only, because there's only one Richman Mahlangu. Yes. Despite personal struggles, including a turbulent marriage, Richman focused on providing a better life and education for his sons, who eventually attended Harvard and Georgetown universities. His journey also highlights the struggles with bureaucracy and the education system. He faced significant challenges in renewing his counselling license, failing the praxis exam multiple times, which led to a loss of employment. Despite these setbacks, he persisted and was eventually rehired as a school counsellor. Richman's story is a testament to the power of perseverance and hard work. He emphasizes that opportunities can come unexpectedly, and it's crucial to seize them when they arise. His focus was not just on personal achievements, but also on supporting his family and contributing to society. Now, Richman, there was a lot more than that in your bio, but for this intro, I had to keep it short. So I am looking forward to you sharing with us.
Okay, I just set my clock. Well, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are. I don't know if my story, after I've listened to all the wonderful speeches, before me if I'm going to, make an impact. But it's a privilege and an honor to have the opportunity to be invited to speak to you today. So thank you for that. You're very kind. My name is Richman Mahlangu. I was born in Durban, South Africa. Both of my parents did not have any formal education. In fact, my mom and dad could not read or write. When I was 13 years old, one morning my father was working in the garden outside when he suddenly fell down and collapsed and died, leaving my mother with 5 children. I was the youngest of the 5. I learned something significant from this incident, that nothing in the world is permanent, that nothing in our lives is guaranteed. In fact, nobody knows what the future is, will bring. At this particular time, South Africa was still under the rule of law of the apartheid regime, which classified Black people, Indian and colored people as 2nd, 3rd, and 4th class citizen, Black people being the 4th class citizen. The schools that I attended were Black schools only, basically in the township, which had a special curriculum called Bantu education. Bantu education was specifically created by the government for the Black schools only. It was an inferior curriculum. The bus stops that I had to stand to wait for a bus were segregated with for Black people only. There's restaurants we could not enter, same as hotels. We couldn't make a reservation to book the hotel because the owners had a right to accept or reject whoever they wanted. Back in the township, most of the boys who were my age were drinking alcohol, doing drugs, smoking cigarettes, and skipping school. As a kid, I always liked school. I always felt like this was the only place where I could learn and acquire knowledge that would help me later in my life achieve better things. So I always went to school and I did my homework. In the house where I lived, I would call this a 4-bedroom house, but it's a 4-bedroom house because there was 2 bedrooms where people sleep, but there was also a kitchen and a dining room. But as you may know, in most of the African families, there's a good number of people. So we do sleep in the kitchen and the dining room. So every place is to sleep. I don't know what I should always say, this is fortunate or unfortunate, but I had my 3 sisters who were older than my brother and I, got pregnant before they were 30. And one of them had twins. So we had 4 babies in this house. So there were actually 10 people in this small little house. My brother and I had to wait for the babies to go to sleep every night before we could do homework. We did not have any electricity. There was no hot running water. So we had to boil water to bath before going to school. And we used candles for lighting. But at the time when you're this young, as long as mom's there, you got food, you don't really understand that. After the death of my father, my family would basically come home from work and people would be crying and kind of a miserable time. And then to escape that, I would run down the street. There was an old tennis court just down the street from my house. And I would watch the boys there playing. I had basically just moved from a village called Danhausa after the death of my father. So in the townships, if you don't know people, you don't just walk around everywhere. So I would go by this court and watch these guys play. They were just playing for fun, barefoot and no shirts on. And of course, if you're sitting there, because they were not trained tennis players, they hit a lot of balls over the fence. So you become a ball boy by default. You run and get the ball and toss it back and they carry on playing. But one afternoon, there was actually a very special day because 2 guys showed up wearing these beautiful tennis outfits, white shirts, white shorts and white socks, beautiful tennis shoes. They were actually both from my township. I didn't know them then. One of them was Tobias Mavundla, he was from down the street from my house. And the other gentleman's name was Benson Ducey. So we watched them play. For the very first time, I see somebody hit the ball back and forth more than 3 or 4 times without missing. And you hear the sound of this ball just going. And I'm all excited, getting goosebumps. I'm thinking, wow. I went to speak to this gentleman, and to make the long story short, Benson ended up recruiting me and taking me to a place called Ewema, where there was a group of Black people that played tennis there, which was about a half an hour from my house. Most actually people were there were Black men. There were ladies, but there was not a lot of ladies. And apparently there was a code among these men that when the young Black kids came, nobody had to leave them behind. It was their responsibility to mentor us and you know and teach us the right way to speak. It was for the very first time I met Black men that were educated, that had professional jobs, they had their own cars, they had their own families, and stressing education to their children. They had younger children than me. So what would happen is that I would get out of school and go to this place, Ewema, which was about 20 minutes away, walk from my high school. I had this old tennis racket that was warped with broken strings, and I would hit against the wall barefoot most of the time. And then I would wait for these men to get out of work because they got out at 4:30 or 5 o'clock to come to practice. So we would play. Obviously, I was the weakest of all of them at the time. The idea of mentoring, obviously, we would play until 6 o'clock, 6:30. Most of them lived to another township called Umlazi, and I lived in Lamontville. Benson and I lived in Lamontville. But and then they'll drive me. So they will drive me home first, drop me off, and then go to their homes. When we started to play tournaments, when I was a bit better, we had tournaments in Johannesburg, Cape Town. Of course, I didn't have any money, so they took me with them. They would drive and pay for my accommodation if we stayed in a hotel. And sometimes we stayed with friends. And to mention a couple of these names, because it's always important for me to articulate names like Mr. K.K. Mtiana. He passed away in 2000 with through COVID. He was a federal judge then. When I met him, he was a lawyer. For the very first time as a Black kid from the township, I knew that there was something called an attorney, a lawyer, which most of my friends didn't know that because they'd never even heard of such a thing. I didn't know anything about that as a kid either until I met him. And he became a very close mentor. Another one is Professor Paulo Zulu. At the time, he was not a professor, but today he's still alive. He's actually 84 years old. And he became another mentor. There was obviously a bunch of them, Super Mahanja and Mr. And Demande. So all these men became a mentor. One afternoon, another special day, I'm hitting against the wall. I just taken off the shoes that I had that had holes in them because I couldn't run properly. They were hindering my running. So, and all of a sudden I hear this English voice behind me. Good afternoon, young man. My name is Tim Gray. And I look back and there's this white man behind me. By the way, at this particular time, I didn't know any white people. He introduces himself and he had a basket of tennis balls and a tennis racket, which told me maybe he was a professional coach, and he introduces himself. And he tells me that he was there to teach a tennis lesson to a young lady who had received some scholarship to America, and her father wanted her to get some lessons before she went to America. He goes and teaches her, comes back after that, and he starts talking to me again, and he shows me the grip on my forehand. This is what you're supposed to do to hit the ball. And of course, I'm a little terrified. My English was not good at the time. Not that it's great now, but I think I can communicate better. Anyway, so he tells me, well, you know, if you would like to learn more about tennis, I teach tennis at K-Star Hotel, which is about an hour and a half away, taking 2 buses from the township. You could come there every Saturday. In the middle of this conversation, Benson shows up, and he ends up being more like the one leading the conversation because he was older and he spoke better English. So he basically recruits Benson and I to go to K-Star, where he taught a group of tennis lessons to these white kids. So we were to pick up balls for him for an hour to 2 hours, and then we'll get a half an hour lesson, which grew to 2 hours. For the very first time, I had some professional coaching. So Tim Gray says, well, if you guys want to carry on, you know, playing tennis, you could come here. I'll drive you to the bus stop afterwards. I didn't miss a day for 2 years attending Tim Gray's clinic. Unless it was raining, for any reason I couldn't go. So after 2 years, Tim Gray was going to leave Durban and go to a place called Pietermaritzburg, because he was going to start a health farm there. I had no idea what a health farm was at the time, but apparently this is where wealthy people go and get massages, do yoga and all the fancy stuff. And he said, you know, you guys, to get better, you need to actually play against better players. So he decided to go to a white club called Mitchell Park. I'm saying a white club because at the time in South Africa, we had two tennis associations. We had a tennis association called TASA, which was Tennis Association of South Africa, composed of Indian, blacks, and coloreds, non-whites basically, played in this one association. The other association was the white association. And we didn't play in the same tournaments. Tim Gray goes to this Mitchell Park Tennis Club and he speaks to a gentleman, I believe, who was a tennis director at the time, Trevor Hall. And he says, I've got these two black kids that play tennis. I'd like them to carry on playing. They need better players. Could you make an exception and accept them? Gentleman by the name of Trevor Hall, very nice man. He says, yes, I go to Mitchell Park, or Benson and I go to Mitchell Park. For the very first time, this was my first social interaction with white people other than Tim Gray. It was absolutely terrifying. Because again, I still had a very limited English at the time. But these people were very, very kind. So this was, again, as I said, my very first social interaction with white people. The only white people that I'd seen, not I'd known, that I'd seen were the police in the township during riots, which came with the police cars and the canine dogs and machine guns. You know, a 12-year-old boy barefoot in the street, you get these machine guns with the military. Terrifying experience. But these people were very, very kind. Some of them started arranging for me to play with their sons in the afternoon to practice for me to get better. I remember this one incident one time. They used to dish out biscuits in the afternoon and tea. And so the gentleman who was working there came with this plate of biscuits to me. I was terrified to put my black hand in there because I thought my hand doesn't belong there. But this is what happens, you know, when you grow up in a racist environment where discrimination, it doesn't necessarily have to be by race, but where you basically classified as different, because nobody has to say anything mean to you, but the norms of the culture, they speak louder than, you know, you can possibly imagine. And I didn't take the biscuit the first time they offered it to me, and the second time because I was just terrified that I can't put my hand in there. But eventually I did at some stage, because these people were kind and friendly. Some of them started giving me rides home in the afternoons. Another great incident happened while I was in Mitchell Park. A gentleman by the name of Ray Schwegman shows up. He was a white South African who was living in Austria at the time. He owned a tennis school. Just to back up a little bit, at Mitchell Park, I learned that a lot of the young tennis players, most of them were top juniors in the country. We had some good coaches there. I didn't obviously take lessons there because I couldn't afford them. I was taking from Tim Gray, and he had left. Most of them, when they turned 18, because the white boys it was mandatory for them to go to the military. So a lot of them, instead of going to the military, they try and get scholarships to come to America. So they played tennis and they stayed here. Some of them stayed and got married and then basically stayed in America. Some of them went to the military. So the idea when I was about 14, 15 of getting a scholarship and go to America through education and tennis was born. I had this dream as a kid. Every single night I went to this dream. I would go to sleep. Once we blew the candle stick off, I would be flying overseas with a tennis racket in my arm, paddling as fast as I possibly could over the ocean, because I didn't want to fall in and be eaten by the sharks. I didn't swim that good at the time, because we never had a pool in my house like most of the kids in the township. But this dream happened every single night. And then I would, by the way, at the time, I had no idea there was a difference between America, Europe, Australia, was just all overseas. But the only country we knew about was America, because you see on television Muhammad Ali fighting or Michael Jackson performing some music, whatever. And then I would see people playing tennis. I would land and ask, could I possibly play? And they would say yes, and I would play. And all of a sudden, right in the middle of the set, I would hear my mother in this dream going to my room to wake me up to go to school, and I would just take off without even saying anything to anybody, because I wanted to get into bed before my mother opened the door and get terrified that I wasn't there. I would get through the roof into the bed, and the door would open every morning. And she would say, Bongani, vuka mfana wami, is time to get school in. Wake up, it's time to get up and go to school. And I would get up and get ready to go to school. Mr. Schwegman, here's the story that I'm trying to go to America. A lot of universities I've written to. I got to check my time here. I apologize. Sorry. Oh my Lord, I have only four minutes. So this is, I need to hurry up.
5 minutes. 5 minutes.
5 minutes. Mr. Schwegman, here's my story. And he says, listen, I own a tennis school in Austria. I'd love to help you pursue education, but you can come and work for me for a couple of years. Or you can come and work for me and then still apply for your scholarship to go to America. So I go to Austria. There I am in the middle of the winter in Austria. Was March 1985. It was minus 10 degrees. I had no idea what cold was until I got to Austria. We travel about 4 hours to a place called St. Wolfgang, which is located about 45 minutes west of Salzburg. There I was in Austria. Their guests, they had about 35 to 45 minutes of people, were Austrians, Germans, and Swiss. Guess what? We had to teach German. We had to teach tennis in German. So I had to learn German. The only thing that this language, Afrikaans, ever helped me with was learning German, because it's very similar. So all of a sudden, I'm in this room with all of us, obviously the only Black kid in this village, in this area. Among all these people, they're all staring at me. And some of them come and say, hey, you know, this is not in English, obviously, in German, they would translate, you know, you got a beautiful skin. We would like to have, you know, a dark skin. We sit in the sun outside during the summer. All of a sudden, you know, 2 days before I was in South Africa, where people would shoot at you for being Black or you get arrested. And all of a sudden, I'm in Europe now, where people think it's cool to be Black, the dark skin. So this was a culture shock, but fortunately, these were positive culture shocks. I learned new things I didn't know about myself. They were interested to know about my culture. Jump forward again at this camp. One day, a guy shows up. He's looking for a hitting partner. And normally, we never played against anybody unless they paid. And he says, I'm a good player. I just want somebody to hit with. I go and play with him. We get done. And he goes, you're so young. Your game is pretty good. You know, you should be trying to get to America and get a scholarship. I'm like, I've been trying for the last 10 years. I don't know anybody. I've written to people. Nobody is giving me a positive thing yet, because they're concerned about recruiting me. And I get there and I'm not even good enough to play in a team. He picks up the phone while we're sitting at the bar, calls the thing. And I'm thinking the whole thing is a joke. And he talks to this man back and forth. And at some stage, I think, this is actually a real thing. Eventually, he gives me the phone. On the other end, I hear this very American accent for the very first time, a gentleman by the name of Craig Witcher. He was the head pro at University of Nevada, Las Vegas. And he says, listen, if you're good, as Norman says, Norman Moores, by the way, Norman was from Canada. You're as good as Norman says, I would like you to talk to further about this thing. To make the long story short, I get recruited in 1986. I show up in Las Vegas. I had only $300 in my wallet, one bag, and 3 tennis rackets. I had no idea where I was geographically, because the education I'd received back home was very limiting, not to make an excuse. He picks me up. He shows me at the dorm. The next thing, I'm at a university. I am studying. I have absolutely no idea what these professors are saying, because the accent was so different for me. The very first time, by the way, we had no library in the schools I grew up in. I'd never been in a library. The only library I'd seen was in the movies. So the professor says to us, you guys need to write this paper. I'm like, how do I do that? You need to go to the library and get a book, read a book and write this paper. I go to the library for the first time. And I tell the lady I'm looking for the book, and she says, oh, yeah, you can take a couple of books out and go read them and then bring them back during your due date. I'm like, I'm sorry, I can't do that. She says, why? Well, I'm terrified that I'm going to walk out of the library with these books and get arrested because I'll be being accused of stealing them. She says, no, the university has libraries. He has a library because it's for you guys. You need to be learning. Take the books. You can take any book you want. This is another culture shock. The very first book I ever read, because I didn't read as a kid, was a book about Mr. Nelson Mandela, because I had never seen Mr. Mandela before, because growing up, he was banned. His name is face or anything about him in South Africa. So I write this paper, which was fantastic. 2 months later, the coach calls me and he says, hey, there's a problem with your scholarship. Oh, that's my clock. At the end of the day, I finished school. I went to graduate school. I raised two boys at some stage that I coach. I forced them to play tennis. I feel horrible about it because they didn't live like American kids. But fortunately, as mad as they were and still mad at me, they got recruited to Harvard and Georgetown. One is a software engineer and one owns his own financial business. So I work as a high school counselor. You mentioned I failed the test 7 times because I don't read so fast, but eventually I passed this test. I persevered because I just always believe it doesn't matter how difficult things are. I don't really see difficulties as a problem in life. I just go through this thing and fail as many times as I have, but I just always believe that there's a chance that I'll be successful. And this is actually my journey. I'm sorry I didn't have enough time to share my story, my whole story with you.
Oh, Richman, amazing, absolutely amazing. And you're an author. You're an author as well.
I've
I'm
written
sure.
my book is called, my autobiography is called Zulu Dreams from Apartheid to the Ivy League. And the self-help book is called Success Beyond Expectations, and both available on Amazon.
Yeah, put links in the chat as well, Richman.
Oh, you're asking me to type? I'm just kidding. I'm from the township. We don't have any computers. Hello.
Oh my goodness. Oh.
Okay, I'm gonna mute myself.
That was
Oh,
hilarious,
wonderful.
Richmond. That was so funny.
Yes. Oh, I have to wipe the tears. Yes, thank you, Richmond. Oh my word. So there will be questions for you at the end. And Raoul has been waiting very patiently, but your time has come, Raoul. So I'm introducing our final speaker for the evening, afternoon, morning, wherever you are, who is Raoul Karan Sharma. Raoul is a mindset coach, empowerment speaker, and industry leader. He's an accomplished author of 2 Amazon, 1 new releases, Habits for Miracles and Be Action Oriented. He's a certified speaker by Dr. Delatoro McNeil II, certified speaker and coach by Les Brown, Franklin Covey certified facilitator, 7 Habits for Managers, certified coach, associate of talent development, Master of Organization Development, Bowling Green State University, Master of Business Administration, Pune University, India. So, Raoul, we waited a while for this moment, and I turn the floor over to you.
I think I'm glad that I joined at the time when the event started and was able to listen to everyone. Normally, in most of the events, you just go at the time you are supposed to speak. But I'm fortunate to be here full time and great to learn about all the speakers, right from Ebony to Renee and Mr. Richman. Amazing stories, a lot of learnings. So here I'm with another story. It was fall 2008, 8 p.m. Indian time. At that time, I was deputed to an office in India that I was supporting from US, and I was tasked to manage an operation. And I was in that office from 2005, just for everyone's clarity, but it was fall of 2008. And since I was supporting US office, we were working US hours, which is the night shift in India. 8 o'clock, my cell rang, and the person on the other side said, "Sir, Mr. A has eaten sleeping pills more than he is supposed to, and we are rushing him to hospital." And Mr. A, July of 2006, I personally recruited this individual, bright individual from a engineering institute, great ambition, he was a performer, got an award as well. And when I heard this, my mind was quiet. There was no thoughts coming in my mind, and simply I just kept my phone down, rushed to the hospital where this gentleman was supposed to be taken. I reached there. It was a sleeping pills. Not many hospitals were willing to admit the individual because it was not the natural thing. Somehow we found a hospital and they asked for a deposit money. I was not having enough cash, went to an ATM, took the cash, gave it to the counter, and made sure that he gets the treatment. A couple hours later, we got to know that the person is out of danger. They were able to give him some medication because of which he vomited and all the sleeping pills were out. In my mind, I was thinking, what would have happened or what would have transpired to this individual to take this extreme step? Only child of parents, bright student, bright employee, performer, moving up in the value chain. But why he took this step? I was not able to get an answer. Once he got back to office, I personally invested time with him and started mentoring this individual. One of the reasons I found, out of the many reasons, maybe is the dating, colleagues at work, parent, I don't know what was the actual reason, but one of the reasons I could found was he was not having a mentor. He was not having a person who could give him direction. He was not having a person who can tell him his blind spots. He was not having a person who can carve out a career map for him. Ideally, all these things should be done by a leader in a corporate world. But it was not happening. And that's where I took charge with this person. Though he was not a direct reportee to me, he was 3 levels down, but I still started working with him without crossing the line of being a manager. Today we are in 2024. I'm proud to say the person is very, very successful. Went up in the career, led many teams, departments, for that matter, countries. And we are still connected, very good friends, very good colleagues, and we will be there for life. I didn't imagine that would have happened when I met him for the first time for the campus interview, that he will be friend for life, he will be colleague for life. But things happen. And when I got to know that this person is out of danger of his life, that was the moment of fulfillment. I never felt when I got the biggest bonuses. I never felt that way when I got awarded. I never felt that way probably when I got married. That sense of fulfillment was because I was able to do something that is helpful, that has been helpful for someone personally. And I think as leaders, that's what we are supposed to do. Leaders are not for leading. Leaders are for serving. And that is the biggest gap I see in corporate world. where when someone wants to lead, what they say that I want to become a leader. I want to earn high bonuses. I want to get that title. There are hardly anyone who will go to their manager that, hey, Mr. Manager, this is my dream to become a manager. Can you please help me in providing or identifying the trainings, identifying the right things for me to do today, so tomorrow I can be a manager? 84%, according to Forbes research, 84% of corporate America leaders says that when they took up the leadership role, they were not prepared. Think about a situation. You have just boarded a flight to Las Vegas to meet Mr. Richman. And you hear an announcement from your captain. This is the captain speaking. Thank you for being my first passenger. And guess what? I have never flown before. This is my first flight. Yes, I have experience in seeing how the flight takes off, but I have never done that. So I'm thankful to you for having this journey with me. How would you feel? Think about, well, it should not happen, but let's say if you are in operation theater and your doctor says, you are my first patient. I have never operated anyone before. Yes, I have read some books, I've watched some videos, but not done it. How would we feel? This is what is the state of leaders today. They've never been there, never done that. But then suddenly they are responsible to manage the career and life of so many people. And without any regrets, they keep doing mistakes. They keep doing same mistakes. They are not there to serve their people. So if you are those accidental leaders who don't want to become a leader or a manager, but took up the role or probably given that role, there are a few things I would recommend you to do before you actually take up that role. If you have already taken it, still it's not too late. It's never too late than never. And the first thing I would focus on is having a mentor in life. And I'm not talking about a paid mentor. I'm not here to sell coaching, but have a mentor, maybe in your from your family, maybe from your alumni, maybe from your own organization, but have someone who can tell you that, you know what, when you talk, you move a lot. When you talk, your eyes are closed. That can only be told to you by someone who is a coach or a mentor, who is your well-wisher. That has to be someone who can tell you where you fall short. What are your blind spots? What is something that you are doing subconsciously in your mind that you should not be doing? Number two, invest in yourself. Be the person that you want to become. Everyone wants to become, but no one focuses on being that person. So invest in yourself by getting the right training, coaching, watching training videos, or probably watching the people who are actually doing it. How many times you can have a shadow or a day in life of someone that you want to be? To know that grass is not always greener on the other side. I faced with this dilemma when I was doing my MBA. In the first semester of the 4-semester course, I was asked that what discipline you want to choose, what is your specialization? Finance was far the topmost, followed by marketing. And then we had operations and human resources. These were the 4 options I had when I did my MBA. While growing up, I was fond of reading books on self-development. And that's the reason my first book is on self-development. So I had some inclination towards helping people, helping others. And as my part of my course, we were supposed to do 1 internship. That was mandatory. I did 3 internships. I utilized my 2 winter vacation and did 3 internships. And these 3 internships were in different companies as well as different type of environment when it comes to human resources. And finally, I selected my discipline as a human resources, got a job in HR. Why I'm sharing this is you need to test the water. You really need to know what you will be doing tomorrow to avoid that regret, to avoid that feeling that why I chose this. And if you don't have that opportunity, it's okay. It is all about experience. We live in this world where we are giving experience to people, we are gaining experience from people. So focus on knowing yourself. And the third thing I would say is know your why. I know Renee touched upon it. I believe everything that we do is all about mindset. If as a leader you want to get any training on, get training on mindset. Because it is your mind that allows you to take action, positive or negative. And if your mindset is not ready to do that something that you want to achieve, then you will not be able to accomplish. That's why, according to Forbes, only 8% of people globally have successfully converted their dreams into reality. Only 8%. And the foremost reason why people are unable to complete their or convert their dreams into reality is they lack consistency. They start small, they start big. For example, 31st December or probably Jan 1st, supposed to be the highest membership when it comes to health clubs. Because people decide on 31st December, I want to lose to do this. They are very strong in the month of January, but later on, they just go on and on. They reduce the time that they go to health clubs, it gets down. And if you are consistent, because if your end goal is weight loss, probably you will give up very soon, honestly. And I'm telling with experience. And I have now changed my mindset from weight loss to be fit. When your mindset is changed, because when your mindset is weight loss, what are you doing? You're checking your weight every single day, every 2 days. Some people says check it every morning. Some people says don't check it. Some people say check every week. Who do you want to hear? And then when you are checking your weight, if it is not going down, then you start giving up and you give up. I have been there, done it multiple times. But what has worked for me starting 2018 is be conscious about what you are eating, number 1, and do physical activity to remain fit. I do swimming, not to run into Olympics, but to do physically active. I do 50 minutes of swimming every 3 days a week. And that is something has worked for me. So where I'm going at is you be consistent. If you're consistent, you will do wonders. So coming back on those 3 things, if we want to focus on our future, if you want to be the person that we want to become, number 1, have a mentor in your life. Number 2, invest in yourself. Focus on you. Focus on developing your inner self. Most of the time we look at the outer things. We hardly look at inner things, but it's all about inner self that we need to focus on. and then be consistent in whatever you do. If you're consistent, you will be doing amazing. You will see the results. You will see the results coming in. It will be slow, but it is that story of rabbit and a hare, or tortoise rather, rabbit and a tortoise. So slow and steady wins the race. That is where I would recommend you to focus on. I would leave it with you with some thoughts on how you can accomplish or what you should be doing to build your future. Many a times we blame someone else because it's easy to put the blame on others. Oh, I did not got the right upbringing. Oh, my parents did not send me to right school. Oh, my manager is biased to someone else. Oh, my professor is biased. It's very easy. And that is not you personally. It's our mind. Our mind knows everything. They want to think of things that you like. So mind knows what you like. You like to put blame on others. So my philosophy says that is in order for you to be successful, it's just about you. So there are 5 building blocks from my experience that will help you do things that you will do consistently. Number 1 is accomplishing of tasks. Be the one who is accomplishing tasks. Don't be the one who is finding reasons not to accomplish. Whatever it is. In last 9 months of my entrepreneurship, I have learned so many things about entrepreneur. And you know what? Every day I'm learning something new. And if I just keep on procrastinating, if I just keep on questioning, things will not happen. So for me to move forward, I have to be the one who is accomplishing the task. If you're an employee who is accomplishing the task, you will be the favorite of your team member, team leader. If you're an entrepreneur who is accomplishing task, you will be amazing. If you're a student who is accomplished task, you will be the favorite of your professors. Focus on accomplishing. Number 2, make decision. Don't stand in between. Make decision, even whether right or wrong. Because when you make a decision, if it is right, you will love it. Even if it is wrong, you will learn that you don't have to go that way next time. Be a decision maker. One of the things which I see, which is missing in many people, they're unable to decide. They need help of others to take that decision. So focus on making decision. Number 3, I would say, is seek out opportunities. There is this famous saying, opportunities knock your door only once. Opportunity will knock your door. All crap. Look out for opportunity. Opportunity is everywhere. You just need to seek out for opportunities. You don't want to be that small fish and big fish story, if you've heard, that just because you don't have a big frying pan, you are not fishing big fish. You just keep on fishing smaller fish because you have a smaller frying pan at home. Don't do that. Focus on identifying the opportunities. Number 4 is be a curious learner. Renee was the same person. And then when Renee was sharing her story, the only person that was coming to my mind was my son. He's curious. And yes, I have told him that you ask too many questions, but at the same time, I also tell him that please, even if I keep on telling you not to ask questions, I want you to ask questions. Because unless and until we are curious, we will not be using our mind, we will not be creative, we will just be becoming robots, doing what someone is telling us to do. So be that curious person, be a curious learner, know about everything, know about the thing. When I say everything, know about the thing that you are doing in and out. All right. Last but not the least, number 5 is listen first, speak later. And Richman, this was something I learned from Mr. Nelson Mandela's story. He was the great listener when he used to walk in different villages with his father, who was leader of the villages. That's what he learned from his dad. And most of the time, we as leaders, we as individuals, we are ready to respond rather than ready to listen. We respond, we listen to respond, not listen to actually listen. So these are the 5 things that I have learned over my 25 years of work experience. And I have made my fair share of mistakes, okay? Trust me, it's not that I have learned everything from day one. I have made my mistakes. I've learned over a period of time. And these are the 5 things that will help you build your own future. Accomplishing task. Be a one who is accomplishing task. Be the one who is making decision. Be a curious learner. Seek out opportunities and listen first, speak later.
Awesome.
That's what I had for you, team. Thank you for listening to me patiently. I'm a mindset coach and leadership workshop facilitator, not a 4-hour, 8-hour workshop, but more on transformation. Currently, I'm doing 4 hours, 8 hours because I need to pay bills, but eventually I'm looking for an employer who will hire me to make that transformation.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Carol. Thank you, Ritu, for the opportunity.
Thank you, Rahul.
Mhm.
Oh my goodness. So, oh my word, the value that we have had in the last 2 hours, you would pay for it somewhere else, but it's given here so we can all benefit. So thank you to Ebony, Renee, Richman, and Rahul. Thank you for sharing with us your expertise and your knowledge and your experiences. And I now open up the floor for questions for our speakers. Speaker to speaker, audience to speaker. We haven't got much time left, so.
Yeah, I've got a question for Renee.
Okay.
Renee, how did you cross the bridge from having no clients to actually getting your first few clients?
Thank you, Susan. The question that I sat and labored over for a year prior to starting my website. I made the decision to start my website. I didn't, as Rahul was saying, I didn't labor over who I'm going to hire, how is it going to look? I just made the decision. I went with my gut. Maybe it wasn't the best decision. I picked one that you can build yourself, and I built it. I built it within 2 hours, and I sent it to everyone that I knew. And I said, who do you know? And that's how I got the first person that I helped. I also made sure I built my Google business profile correctly. I watched a tutorial on how to do that. So I set it up correctly because I didn't have it set up correctly. And what else did I do to get clients? I rejoined Toastmasters, which I was a member of many moons ago for many, many years. And I got a client that way. And then they shared the information. So I hope that answers your question.
Excellent.
Awesome. Ebony.
My question is also for Renee. So when you were speaking, you spoke about showing up as your most confident self, essentially, in the presence of people who don't feel like you deserve to be who you say you are. How do you kind of confront that energy as you come up against it again, whether it's in the same people or in a new person?
So let's repeat that question, because that's a great question that we could all get value from. So the question you're asking is, how do we create the value that we know we have when we're in front of people that perceive us differently? Is that correct? Is that the question you had? It becomes a knowing. It becomes a knowing. And what I mean by that, do you think I didn't suffer from imposter syndrome even after I started coaching high-level people? I had high-level people seeking me out. And even then I'm like, wait a minute, how am I going to help them? They're already earning X and they want to get to Y. What is it about? There's something about you, right, that is attracted to that person. And we don't get to choose who gets to be attracted to us or not. That is not in our divinity to choose that. We get to stand in our message and who we are, as long as we're being true to it. If we're not being true to our message, then it's going to show up and people will perceive that you're not the right fit. But if you're truly stepping into it with conviction and honesty, then people will. I think it's a natural flow. I have been studying this type of work also, about energy and about how we show up. And I'm a firm believer of that. And the more that I stepped in, not with all this insecurity of, am I good at this? Am I not? I had all the evidence already. I don't need any more evidence. It's time to shine, right? I hope that answers your question.
Yeah.
Every-
Awesome.
Did it answer your question, Ebony?
Yeah, it really did. Hit the
Good.
nail on the-
I'm glad.
Awesome.
I have a
Any-
question. Does anyone
Go
else have
for
a
it.
question? I have a question for Richman. Richman,
Man,
I don't know how to play tennis. I have 2 left feet, but here's my question.
Me either. I just fake it.
Right, we fake it until we make it, right? My question for you is, do you now, in addition to being a counselor, do you coach others in tennis? Did you continue that path?
I basically coached my whole life. When my kids graduated and got recruited to college, I coached for a couple of years because I wasn't making enough money in a school district.
I understand.
But I don't teach now. I teach. I have one kid that I teach. Culturally, it's very different for me living in America. Why people play, and if they're not dedicated to get better, the whole idea of playing for fun, it's fantastic and it's healthy. It's good. I
Yeah.
didn't grow up like that in the culture, so it's very difficult for me to go on a court to just be there so they have somebody to play with. I would teach them for free as long as they're trying to get better.
Wow.
I don't have an issue with it, but I don't want to sit there and take money because somebody needs their kid somewhere to come and hit some tennis balls. I'm not the guy.
Got it.
At the same time, though, I'm very fortunate to have a job now where I could pay my bills. I just play for fun now, socially on weekends at the club, and it's fun. And
That must feel so good, again, for you to
it's an
step into
unbelievable
that.
feeling. It's an unbelievable feeling.
Unbelievable, right?
Yeah. I
was curious about that.
dreamt to have that my whole life.
It's
And it
amazing.
worked. Thank you for the
Amazing.
question.
Welcome.
Awesome. Yes, Teresa.
Yes. I have a question both for Richmond and Raul. And Renee, I enjoyed your speech. Miss
Thank you.
Ebony, please forgive me. But for Mr. Richmond, I wonder, just from your experience, how long did it take for you to get comfortable with the positive cultural shifts or cultural shocks that you had coming from the space of apartheid into environments where you were totally received as a man or as an individual? How long did it take for you personally to get comfortable in those spaces? So that's my question for you. I hope that makes sense. And for Mr. Raul, you made a statement, and you're very correct that as far as individuals within organizations, even though that they are promoted to leadership positions, they may have knowledge of how to do the function, but mentally they're not prepared for the role, oftentimes because they may just be elevated from or now in a position where they have to lead individuals who was once their lateral colleagues, but now they're having to lead them. So even though they have the functional ability to do the job, mentally, they still may not see themselves as a leader. What do you suggest that C-suite leaders would need to do moving forward in their development processes, not only to teach those who are on the leadership pathway how to do the job of a leader, but also to shift their mindset? What do you believe that C-suite leaders need to include in their professional developments for those kind of things? So those are my questions.
I think Mr. Rahul can go first.
Okay, thank you. So there are close to 15% of organization, Teresa, are already doing amazing work when it comes to leadership development. But yes, most of them are not. And one of the first thing I would recommend is to identify the future leaders in the organization. Most of the corporates, they have a program called High Potential Program. And even my employer used to have it. And what we used to do was we used to identify those people who are having great performance as an individual contributor. We were also considering some people management aspect. But what we were not considering is the personality of the individual. As I was sharing, that not everyone could be a leader. That is my personal opinion. It's not that you have to be born or you can be made, but everyone cannot be leader because you may not have the right quality to be a leader. So after having that high potential program or identifying of those future leaders, they need to go into a proper program. And that program is company sponsored inside the company. They can also send it outside, but it would be more of shadowing the leaders, making sure that they are given those mentoring tasks, making sure that they are given the leadership role in the various committees in the company, volunteering opportunities. So there are a lot of companies who are doing mix and match, Teresa. But at the same time, there are companies who are doing for checking the box, not in realizing that how it is impacting or how it is benefiting the organization. Because many exit survey that we see, we hear that people leave managers, they don't leave organizations.
Yeah.
Yet our C-suite leaders are not listening, or probably they don't have the budget. They have the budget to go have gala night, awards night at the end of the year, but they do not have the budget to invest in the people that will be a bigger investment for their organization. So that would be my recommendation, identifying the leaders upfront, maybe in 6 months when they join the organization, and have a very robust program for maybe 12 to 18 months, and make sure that they are improving, make sure that they have that mindset of learning, make sure that they have the mindset of serving, and so on and so forth. So I think that would be my recommendation, Teresa.
I used to have a book called The Servant Leader, and I gave it to one of my managers years and years ago because she exemplified everything that was in that servant leader book. Open door policy, willing to listen. Yeah.
Yep.
Is it you now, Richman? Do you remember the question?
Yes, I do. Actually, yes, I do. Well, it's an interesting question, but I have to say, you know, as a young kid, I never really bought into. It wasn't the term, obviously, as a kid. I never really worried a lot about what other people think. I mean, I think everybody does. People can say stupid stuff, but I also feel I was very fortunate to, through the game of tennis, to have some success of winning some tournament as a kid. Because that's one thing with individual sport, I think that's actually very unique. You actually learn to, you learn these qualities, how to cope in life, because there's things can change very quickly. There's a lot of up and downs with tennis. You could be ahead a game, next minute you look up, you could be 3 games behind. So in tennis, and then I was able to win some tournaments at a young age. When I was 17 years old in South Africa, I got invited to this fitness competition where all the people, all the black athletes that were invited, they were professional players, soccer and basketball, boxing. And I just got invited by luck in tennis because they didn't want to discriminate and not invite a tennis player. So I got a phone call. I went to this competition. My sister said, don't go because you're going to embarrass the family. We were laughing. So I go, I'm thinking, I'm going to get free clothes. It was the first time I ever slept in a hotel. I was like 18 years old. I didn't even have a driver's license or anything. I end up winning a car in this competition. I take this car home and my mom says, you better take this car back where you ever got it from because nobody wins a car. And fortunately, an older mentor was with me, said, no, I was at the competition. So this idea of having some success as a kid and then playing the tennis of, losing matches, sometimes winning, it gave me this idea of kind of just tunneling to focus on me, improving my game. And the coaches, there's a guy called Robin Saunders who was my coach. He was like a bulldog. He basically talked me into this idea of believing that I can beat any guy that I can play against in my ability. There were obviously a lot of players were better than me, but that it basically depended on me how much I was willing to put in to get something out of it. The culture shocks a lot of times was very interesting to me because they were different things. But I think the worst one is racism, but I grew up under apartheid. So there was not a lot of culture shock instead of racism that was really gonna knock me down and knock me over. It may knock me down, but I will still get up because I was used to it. And through my relationship with my ex-wife, her parents were very racist. There's really nasty things when she and I started dating and we had kids. But at the end of the day, to answer the question that the lady asked, the culture shocks, most of the time, I think I was also very ignorant about a lot of things because I didn't have a lot of formal education. Parents were educated, who will teach me about the world. I was just excited to be traveling to Europe, going to America, playing tennis, meeting all these people. And most of them accepted me because I was different in a sense that I was a black kid from South Africa. They never met anybody from South Africa who played tennis. And I was very grateful when I made them play tennis because I always believed they were going to inherit the same kind of qualities in terms of learning how to deal with adversity and discrimination and racism and all this stuff. And obviously they grew up in America and their lives are a bit different than mine. But I do think that it gave them that resilience and thick skin to be able to overcome these differences and culture shocks. And I hope I'm answering your question.
Yes, sir, you did. Thank you both, gentlemen. If I may, Ms. Carroll, I did have one brief question for Renee. Is it okay? Do we have time?
If it's quick.
Very quick. So Ms. Renee, you did share with us a experience that you had where you were speaking to a group of gentlemen and you were basically had them in the palm of your hand to respond to the objective that you were going for. I didn't appreciate the backhanded the comment that you received, but as a professional as you are, how did you respond to that moment, and what would you suggest for those of us that when we are in an environment having to speak or having to deliver a message, and if we are receiving feedback that's not necessarily so kind, what is the best way, do you believe, for us to respond, to hold ourselves basically in that professional space, but also to let that individual understand that you cannot usurp some type of leverage or power over me? What would be your suggestion? How did you handle it, and how would we do that in the future?
Thank you for this awesome question, Teresa. In that moment, I need to be transparent. I'm from New York City. I was taking a stand-up comedy class at that moment. So you better bet that I whipped back with my New York charm and sense of humor. I literally looked at him in that moment. And I said, the best things come in small packages. And he turned red and walked away. Now, had there been a better way, was there a better way for me to respond to him that's even more professional? Probably, but in that moment, that felt really good for me, and that quieted him enough. So that's number one. Now, this is a great question because I find that I step into situations where I do share things that people don't agree with, and they may come up and say something or whatever. I simply look at them in the eye, because I wish to set the boundary and protect my own self and message. And I simply say, thank you so much for your insight. I appreciate it. And that's it. And that's it. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Awesome.
Does that help?
Awesome.
Does that help, Teresa?
Absolutely. I love
Great.
that. It just is very simple and you move on with life. So thank you for sharing.
And less is always more.
More. Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you all.
Awesome. Now, speakers, I hope you have put your links in the chat. And Elizabeth, Teresa, feel free to put your link in the chat as well. Yes, do share, get to know one another. Yeah.
We'll do that.
And I'm going to hand over to Ritu to close us out. We've had a fantastic evening. And yeah.
Thank you so much, Carol. It's been absolutely amazing tonight. I want to say a big thank you to all our speakers. They have shared such wisdom and value here in a very short space of time. And so many different aspects have come in, and it's just a very small example of when we come together to share, we can make such a big difference. So I am truly, truly, truly humbled and grateful to each one of you who has spent their time together with us here today. And a very big thank you also to Carol, who carries on looking for the best quality people and bringing them here to this platform. So Carol, thank you very much for all your efforts, all your energy, all the time you dedicate to this beautiful platform. Officially UK is a very small grassroots organization based in West Midlands in the UK, and we strive to make the little difference we can in the little number of people we possibly can by coming together, joining hands, joining forces. And again, this room is just a small example of how each one of us has got their own personal particular experiences, and how these experiences then are being used to transform and to contribute towards the good in the world. One word that stands out from tonight's session is act. Make a decision and act. Go for it. Do something about it. You've had some learning. You've had some experience. You've understood something. You found something. You learned something. Act on it. Do something with it. I am totally honored to be in the company of all these wise and wonderful people tonight. And again, the credit goes to Carol. So thank you very much for being here tonight with us. Please stay connected. We have some social presence. Give us a like. Stay connected. Share your beautiful things that you do with us. We'd be very happy to help wherever we can, promote wherever we can, and cheer you on. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Have a wonderful rest of the evening, day, wherever you are in the world. And we shall see you soon again. Thank you. Thank you very much. Bye for now.